Hi, everybody. This is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And this is our monthly free class for my free Facebook group called Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. We're doing something different today, last minute. Instead of our usual monthly Facebook Live, we are here in Zoom. And only the members of the group, of the Facebook group, got the special link for our class. So this is not open to the public, but it is available for anybody who is in our Facebook group. So again, normally this is a Facebook Live, or normally it has been a Facebook Live. Today we're doing it on Zoom. And literally it's just because my Facebook Live has not been working very well this week. And it keeps bumping me off. So in order to go ahead and have the class and have it actually work, we're gonna do our class on Zoom. And sometimes it's actually a good thing when things don't work out, because I think it's actually even better when we're on Zoom. There's more of a connection. I can see you guys. And so just a couple of logistics before we dive in to our topic, which, by the way, our topic is fake ascension symptoms and what's really going on. Okay. So I'm going to be debunking some popular information going around. But before we get into that, let's go over some logistics. So for those of you who are live here with me in Zoom, we're going to, because we have a lot of class content to go over, this focus here is less about lots of sharing. So for this class, I won't be unmuting everybody and having us all share. We might do that sometime in the future. We do a lot of that in my Spiritual Empowerment Academy because we have the space for that. So today we're going to be leaning more into using the chat option. And that's where you can type comments. So it's going to kind of have a similar feel to Facebook Live. If we have time at the end, then there might be an opportunity for personal sharing if you want to share. But also keep in mind, this is going to be uploaded back into our Facebook group, which if you're here live, you're already a member of that. And I will also be uploading it to the YouTube channel, Psychic Protection Sanctuary. So it'll be up there kind of public. So you can think about, if you want to share, how much you want to share, etc. Okay. So only other announcement is that if you want to work with me more deeply, you can find information on my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. The best place to click on is the Work with Maya link, and you'll see a whole list of all these different options. And there's also a place where you can fill in your email address and get some free gifts. You can just look over all that information yourself on the website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. Okay, let's get into these ascension symptoms. My guess is some of you, with the title that I just shared about the ascension symptoms, some of you might be thinking, oh yeah, I know, I've been seeing lots of articles and YouTube videos and all sorts of mentions in the last couple of years about ascension, this 5D ascension, blah, blah, blah. And some of you might be like, what the heck is she talking about? So I'm going to give a quick explanation. And then if you've been out of the loop of popular spirituality, which is probably a good thing if you're out of the loop of the popular stuff. If you're out of the loop and this is your first time hearing about this, you could always Google or get on youtube.com and type in ascension symptoms or 5D ascension. And you'll see all sorts of stuff about all these different spiritual teachers all across the board, talking about either about how we are, as a human race, are ascending to a higher vibration, or they're calling it 5D ascension, where we are ascending from the 3D, three-dimensional physical existence, to 5D, which is a spiritual existence. So I'm going to just say, I personally, now I have space for all of us having different views. It's okay. But I want to share with you that I personally, whenever I see all the information about 5D ascension, the planet is ascending to the 5th dimension, I see that as fake information that's been infiltrated into spiritual teachings. Because as you can see, I'm just going to give you some tough love here. As you can see, we are still in the flippin' 3rd dimension. You still have to go to work. You still have to go to the grocery store. You still have to clean your toilet. Like, you know, I think that there's a tendency in the spiritual world, because this planet is hard. I think it's hard. I think it's hard being here. I am empathetic and I understand the tendency to kind of want to go into fantasy land, you know, and I don't intend at all to stir anybody up if you're really attached to the 5D ascension thing. If this is kind of triggering, I'm a big believer in still holding space and listening. And just like, you don't have to agree with what I'm saying. Maybe what I say will help you validate and ground even more into what you do believe. So it's good to get a variety of beliefs. Again, I personally think that like this whole ascension movement is yet another way to distract the spiritual seeker, that like genuine, caring spiritual seekers. It's a way to distract genuine spiritual seekers from what needs to be addressed on the planet. For example, poverty, racism, you know, I mean, just like enlist all the problems here. If you're focusing on ascending, then you take your focus on like helping the homeless person, right? So I think it's a detractor, it's a distractor, intentional. I think it's intentional. Actually not what this video is about. It's more about not debunking 5D ascension, but because you can think whatever you want about that is totally fine. What I want to talk about today is all this information out there. Like there's thousands of articles and YouTube videos out there about ascension symptoms. Are you having these ascension symptoms? Quote, ascension symptoms. If you're having these symptoms, it means that you are ascending to the 5D. But in reality, every time I see those lists, I'm like, dude, this is tons more false information, because usually the list of ascension symptoms is the exact same list that I give people to warn them, if you have these symptoms, an entity might be hooking into you. And I'm yelling on purpose when I say this. Like, if you're having these symptoms, which I'm going to go through the list in a little bit after I read some of your comments. If you are experiencing some of these symptoms, these are symptoms of entities or negative forces trying to plug into your energy field. But if you believe, oh, this is an ascension into the 5th dimension, and so I should just relax into it, you end up inviting it in. And guess what? That's actually why, that's one of the reasons why there's so much false information that's interwoven into all of these lovely truths that are channeled in spiritual messages. It's to get you to allow and invite in negative energies. So if you believe that confusion and emotional turmoil is a positive thing, then you go, oh, okay, I'm not going to look for anything negative going on. I'm going to just relax into it, not even realizing that maybe you might be under psychic attack, or there might be entity interference. Okay. So I will go through the list more clearly in just a little bit, but I want to take a little break from my soapbox, because I love getting on my soapbox for sure. I'm going to take a break from my soapbox, and I'm going to read some of your comments, and then we'll circle back to my lesson in just a minute. Laura says, they cover pretty much every symptom you could have for anything. That's true. It's like, if you have a headache, you could be ascending to 5D. Well, there's a lot of reasons why you could have a headache, right? And she says, and you still have to treat those symptoms. Yes, depending on what it is, you could either take a spiritual approach to it if it has a spiritual, if there's a spiritual reason behind it, or you need to treat it on a physical level. Either way. Jamiel says, spiritual bypassing and escapism is real, and it can become addictive. The pain is intense. And everybody, if you have not yet read the book called Spiritual Bypassing, I highly recommend it. I can't remember the author all of a sudden, but if you go on Amazon and just type in spiritual bypassing in the books section, you'll find it. Yeah, it's a very good book. So, if you've been kind of hanging out in the popular spiritual movement, that's fine. A lot of people have been hanging out there for a while. But if you're feeling like things are not quite right, that's a good book to start with. It doesn't really talk about the spiritual warfare part that I talk about, but it discusses several dysfunctional and toxic spiritual teachings and approaches. Okay. Laura says, wouldn't mind hearing what you think, Maya, about dimensions. Yeah, okay. I don't know if I'll get to that today, but maybe. Jamiel says, is our space protected before you do talks, Maya? If you know what I mean, just a curious thought I had. That's a great question. So every morning and every evening, I do prayer / meditation, clearing. And so and I focus on whatever's coming up for the day or the coming days. And so today, and actually yesterday, I did clearing on all sorts of things. I did clearing on our class today. I did clearing on our Facebook group. I did clearing for Zoom. I did a really deep clearing yesterday, and then a clearing specifically for our class today. So I think that's all really important. And if you're a spiritual teacher or a guide who is watching this, I recommend that everybody does that. I'm going to be talking about this other topic next time in our next month's class, but as a little sidebar, it's super important as the teacher, leader, facilitator that you hold safe space for your group. And so this reminds me, so I'm going to say it right now so I don't forget later, and then we'll get back to our topic. Next month, I've already decided that our topic is going to be all about toxic and dangerous spiritual events. And the universe, God, Goddess, divine, whatever you want to call it, put me in the middle of a situation recently where I observed some very toxic and dangerous things going on at a spiritual event. But the thing is these issues are really prevalent, and it brought to mind, it put that fire under me again, where I was like, we need to talk about this topic because people don't understand. So that'll be next month's soapbox. Back to today, all about fake ascension symptoms and what's really going on. So Jamiel also says, cool. It's all about love and light. Oh, quotes. It's all love and light, New Agers. Yes. And that's actually why there are certain people that when you or I try to help educate them on some of these very serious topics, unfortunately, they might not want to listen. And I recall recently, a couple weeks ago, I was at a psychic fair, and there was a very nice person who came by my booth, opened up my second book, the Psychicattack Sourcebook, and started reading the section on the common myths. And she saw some myths that she really didn't like. And she said, this is not true. White light protects me. It absolutely does. And I don't like that you're saying that it doesn't. And I said, well, it doesn't. and she was like, well, I don't like that. I'm not going to buy your book. And I was like, okay, well, bless you. I'm not upset with her at all. When she left my booth, I thought, people get really attached to their beliefs. And just like Jamiel, what you said, this whole belief, in quotes, it's all love and light. If we're very attached to that belief and then we start being exposed to the real truths of what's happening, it can be very unsettling and we can want to run away, right? And Jamiel says that quote is both annoying and laughable. Yeah, it is. And I also feel a little bit sad. Me personally, not in a condescending way, but in a genuine sad way, feel a little bit sad when I see people saying things like that. It's all love and light. Because I think, I just see people doing a pretty effective job of avoiding things. And then Jamiel also says, and there is a lot of gaslighting in the New Age movement. Yeah. And we're definitely, I think we'll save that sidebar for next month. I'm going to talk about gaslighting in the New Age movement and with spiritual teachers and leaders and spiritual events. Super common. Yeah. And you're welcome, Jamiel. And Jamie says, is the author of the book Spiritual Bypassing Robert Masters? Yes, it is. And I just couldn't remember. So thank you for helping us out. Okay, I'm going to close out the comments right now. Thanks, everybody, for those great comments. And you can keep them coming. And the cool thing about Zoom is I can see your comments more easily than I could on Facebook Live. So feel free to share whatever's coming up for you. Okay, let me get a drink and then we'll keep going. Okay, so we're talking about fake ascension symptoms. Oh, and it looks like Jamie just posted the link to the book in the chat. So anybody who's here live can see that. And anybody else can look it up on Amazon. Thank you for doing that. So today we're talking about fake ascension symptoms and what's actually going on. And I know I said this before, but it bears repeating. There's a lot of false information that is intentionally woven into channelings and spiritual teachings. Now, the person who's the channeler might not realize that there's false information being woven in, but the false light entity knows. And they're purposely weaving false information in with a whole bunch of lovely truths, a little bit of lies. And why is this done? It's so that people will freely but unknowingly invite entities or negative energies to either hook in or feed on them. And it sounds very dramatic to say that, but that's what I see. I'm actually in a position where in 2016, I had a very jarring experience where I was attacked very brutally by a false light entity, an entity that was pretending to be a council of angels. This entity was working with a spiritual teacher in the area where I used to live. And for some reason, I was able to see what this entity really was. It had a lot of people fooled and still does. And when that trauma, it was a trauma. When that trauma happened, it caused an additional spiritual awakening for me that woke up my ability to see, fortunately and unfortunately, a lot of the negative entities and a lot of the negative activity going on, and especially false light, negative beings pretending to be light. I've got an ability for that. I don't believe that that makes me special. It just makes me different. I believe it's because of the trauma that I went through that jarred that open. I believe that more people are waking up to this, and more people will be able to see what I see. But right now, I'm seeing a lot of things that other people aren't yet seeing. And so this is what I see, is that when people are thinking that they're going through an ascension, what's actually happening is the entities that they've picked up through the going to the local spiritual events where they were doing all this channeling and chanting. By the way, I love chanting, but in a group environment, when they're not setting safe space effectively, and all sorts of random stuff is getting called in. People are going home with all sorts of entity infestation, and then they're being told that, oh, these are ascension symptoms, so just relax into it. In fact, in my first book, Darkness Disguised as Light, I talk about what I jokingly now call the retreat from hell, where it was a weekend retreat that was supposed to be all wonderful and healing, and it actually wasn't wonderful and healing. And what I saw was that all of the participants were left wide open energetically. All these dark entities came in to feed off of everyone. And then later in the Facebook group that had been established for the attendees, I observed lots of people saying, oh, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling exhausted, like all these different symptoms. And the facilitators were answering each one saying, oh, this is a sign of spiritual awakening as a result of this retreat. And I'm shaking my head going, no, like everyone went home infested. And it took me a couple of weeks to get clear. I had to have different healers at that time help me get clear of everything. That's just an example of what is extremely common. So now I'm going to go over a list of, there are 4 different categories of these fake ascension symptoms that are commonly talked about in blogs, articles, Facebook Lives, YouTube videos, etc., done by sometimes very, very popular spiritual teachers. Like the top spiritual teachers are saying that these things are ascension symptoms or 5D ascension symptoms. So the first category is mental confusion and emotional turmoil. they're saying that that is ascension, that you're ascending. But to be clear, that's actually a symptom that either you're dealing with a psychic attack, negative energy, or entities trying to hook into you. And of course, just on a side note, there can be other reasons why you have confusion or emotional turmoil. There can be life circumstances. There can be an actual medical disorder, right? So we're just excluding all the medical and mundane reasons here in this class. Next category would be things like feeling dizzy, lightheaded, nauseous, and headache. Dizzy, lightheaded, nauseous, and headache. So those symptoms specifically are definitely symptoms that something is shifting very quickly with your vibration. So everyone has an energetic frequency. And this dizzy, lightheaded, nauseous headache, it actually can happen if your vibration is going up really quickly or going down really quickly. So it is true that, let's say you go and have a really profound healing with someone, and they genuinely do remove some really dark stuff and they raise your vibration, you might feel a little bit dizzy or lightheaded. It is possible if your vibration has shifted up really fast. But what a lot of people don't realize is they see these symptoms, dizzy, lightheaded, nauseous, headache, and they assume that it means their vibration is going up, when more often than not, it's that their vibration is going down, that something is hooking into them, but they don't realize it. And if you don't realize it, you don't know to look for what's hooking in and to remove it. And when you don't try to remove it, then it hooks in even deeper. And that's the idea, is to get you to not even realize what's going on, so it can have a chance to fully embed. And some of these things that hook in will embed and hide because they don't want to be removed. The next category of symptoms would be anxiety and panic attacks. Anxiety and panic attacks. Now, what happens with this category, anxiety and panic attacks? This is when your physical body, your central nervous system, or your energy body can feel that something foreign is trying to gain access or is actually in your energy field. If something foreign is trying to get in, your alarms are going off. Your conscious mind might not know what it is. So consciously, you might not know, oh, there's an XYZ entity or whatever trying to hook in. So consciously, you're clueless about it at this point, but part of your system is going on high alert and hypervigilance. Either or kind of all of the above. Your energy system can feel that something is present that shouldn't be there. Your central nervous system is all connected. Your body, your central nervous system is it's connected with your energy system. So your body, your cells, every bit of your being is like, oh my God, there's something here that's not supposed to be here. But your conscious mind doesn't know yet, possibly, what's going on. And so that is what can cause someone to have anxiety. It's like this emotional dysregulation or anxiety that the person feels anxious or overwhelmed or hypervigilant, but they don't know why. And it's a signal from your body, from your physical body, from your energy body. Does that make sense? Give me some nods, hopefully. Yeah. Okay. And then the final category that I'm going to talk about today with the fake ascension symptoms is more of the physical, like body aches and fatigue. Now, there can be a lot of reasons for body aches and fatigue. So it's actually one of my pet peeves when people are blaming the body aches and fatigue always on Ascension, when somebody actually, a lot of people have physical ailments going on that they're ignoring because the spiritual guru is telling them that it's just Ascension, and they're not addressing whatever's going on physically. Maybe there's a pathogen that their body is fighting off, or they have a vitamin deficiency, or they have an autoimmune illness, or they have something else going on, and they're completely ignoring it because they think they're just ascending. And by the way, years ago, when I started to develop autoimmune issues, and I just now thought of this, the healer that I was working with at the time, very well-meaning lady, she kept telling me that the reason why I was having those symptoms was because of Ascension symptoms. And so I literally didn't get diagnosed with a particular thing that I've now addressed physically through nutrition, that I avoided addressing for, I think, a couple years. And think of how messed up that is, that we avoid addressing things that need to be addressed physically. But also the body aches and fatigue, that can definitely be a sign that there's something going on energetically. It can be a sign of a psychic attack, negative energy being sent your way. If you're feeling off, if you're feeling extra tired, the fatigue part, there could be someone, either a person or an entity, hooked into your energy field and siphoning life force energy. And that is a very common thing. And we've probably all heard of the term energy vampire or psychic vampire. There are people who just tend to suck us dry. Some of them don't even really know about energy. It's just how they are interpersonally. But if we're just telling ourselves, oh, that's just Ascension symptoms, then we won't address the relationship issue and the energy issue connected with that, where we need to unhook that person. They don't have the right to siphon your energy. Okay, so this whole fake Ascension symptom, this whole Ascension symptoms, false information, it keeps us from looking at what actually needs to be addressed. It keeps us avoiding what actually needs to be addressed, whether it's a health issue, whether it's an entity issue, whether it's an interpersonal issue, okay? And then I'm gonna read some more of your wonderful comments in just a little bit, but I want to tell you that in my first book, Darkness Disguised as Light, The Hidden Truth About Psychic Protection and the Illusion Matrix, which you can get on Amazon, in chapter 6, I think it is, let me double check. Chapter 6, lesson 6, there is a whole section called 2 Signs That Negative Energies Are Plugging Into You. So if you don't have that book, get it. If you do have that book, grab that chapter, grab that book, open up to lesson 6 and reread that section, because it's going to really complement what we talked about today. I love giving homework because I was a teacher 30 years ago, and I love giving you guys homework. Okay, so now I'm going to read some of your comments, and give me a second to open those up. And I invite any more comments as well. It looks like we have time for more comments. Okay. And Jamiel is saying, I definitely feel off. I'm experiencing a lot. Yeah, you have definitely been going through some spiritual issues. So from our discussions, definitely there's some stuff going on, and it's not the Ascension thing with you, it's the other stuff. But you are addressing it. Jamiel also says possibly partial soul body possession, not full body though. Yeah, so I talked about energy cords and an energy possibly being present in your energy field, but everything that we just talked about today can also be an indication of full or partial possession. And I don't want to freak people out by using that word. The way that I define that word is a little bit different than like how the Catholic Church defines it. I use that term to describe if an entity is stepping all the way into a person's body rather than hanging out in their energy field or hanging out connected by an energy cord or like coming and going. But the possession issue is when it steps all the way in and it's either partially running the show or fully. And when it's fully running the show, that's when the person blacks out. But if the person is still aware, then it's a partial. Okay, and Jamiel also says, I'm hoping that the book, the courses in your academy will help. Yeah, I really, really do. You're a perfect match. Actually, I think that all of that will help you. And so at least for right now, at least be reading and studying the books. And I want to encourage you to take whatever next steps you're ready for. Okay. Okay. So do we have any other comments? Or actually, since we're doing a new format today, I'm going to close the comments. And I want to just open it up and just ask, is there anyone who feels like you have your own soapbox, anything that you'd like to share verbally? And there's no pressure here because I have something else I can go into if no one wants to talk. So I want to just open it up right now. Is there anyone who wants to talk? Raise your hand or unmute. Or put your video on if you want to. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to decide. Okay, Laura, I'm going to unmute you, or you can unmute yourself. And I think you can probably unmute yourself.
Hi.
Maybe. Hi.
Yeah.
Where are you joining from, Laura?
I'm in Costa Rica.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's all right.
That's great.
So I was wondering, we're talking about these fake signs of spiritual growth. And you mentioned that dizzy feeling can be a sign of either growth or shrinking. What are some other signs of spiritual growth, beyond your obvious, expansion perceptive lens?
Yes. Okay. I love it when we're in a group. I'm going to go ahead and you can unmute yourself in just a minute if you want to, but I'm just getting a little bit of background noise. So I'm going to, there. Yeah. Hang on. There we go. Logistics. Okay. And then if you want to add, you can unmute. I love it when we're in a group format because often what comes up is something that's super important, but that I hadn't mentioned yet. And I'm so glad that you brought this up. Because, if all of these ascension symptoms that we're talking about are signs of not good things happening, then what are the good signs? Like what are the signs that you are ascending? Okay, so let me gather my thoughts here for a second. Okay, so with the dizzy and lightheaded and nauseous and headache symptoms, I would specifically word that as symptoms that your vibration, your spiritual vibration is shifting quickly. I personally would not categorize that as a sign of growth or a sign of ascension because it's a little bit unclear and it's not exactly what's happening. So to be more specific, those are signs that your vibration is shifting very quickly, which can be good or bad. But I'm going to change the language a little bit. Instead of using the word ascension, which I find to be problematic. So I'm just going to choose to, I mean, it's okay, whatever words that you want to use. I'm going to shift away from the word ascension because a lot of the ingrained meaning in ascension is really about disembodiment, disconnecting from the body and disconnecting from like actual reality. And there's a lot of spiritual bypassing that's associated, at least in my mind, with the ascension movement. So I'm going to use a different term. I'm going to say, what are the signs of authentic soul growth, personal growth? So growth, soul deepening. I love the term soul deepening because that is like you're going inward instead of spacing out into outer space, into the 5th dimension or the 12th dimension. Soul deepening. What are the signs of soul deepening? So if you feel more grounded, if you feel more embodied, less in la la land, more present with yourself. Another sign of that soul growth or soul deepening is that when life's chaos shows up, when problems arise, interpersonal problems, life problems, which happen because we're in this reality. When those arise, we are able to handle them with more calmness and grace. We're not going to get it perfect every time, but we're going to get less spun out by our triggers that are our unhealed triggers. And we're going to be able to stay more present in recognizing, oh, one of my triggers is coming up right now, and staying present with what's mine that needs to be healed and what is the other person's stuff. And we're able to like just stay grounded and be more in that observer kind of role. So even if someone has experienced a lot of soul growth, soul deepening, we still have life situations that are hard. We still have moments when we lose it or we get stressed out or we get angry with someone. That still happens. Okay. So we still are a human being and we're still going to have our human range of emotions and our ups and downs, also based on our chemicals in our body and our hormones and the phases of the moon and all the things that are affecting us since we are in a physical incarnation. But the more soul deepened we become, the more we stay grounded and rooted, and we're not spacing out into la la land. Okay. And I also wouldn't necessarily use the word, just me personally, I wouldn't use the word expanded. That's just my personal thing. I also believe everyone has a different way of connecting. And so if you connect with that word, that's awesome. But the expanded feels more like dispersing of energy. And I like this like very anchoring, yet still being able to connect with other people's heart energy, right? Because I just see, generally speaking, in the spiritual world in general, that there's the typical tendency is of disembodiment, and it's of expansion and like dispersing the energy outward, where I think the healthiest and spiritually safer way is to come inward to your inner guidance, come inward to your own soul, to your own essence, and operate from there, and then connecting with all that is. that's my way of seeing things, but I also recognize, there's billions of ways of connecting spiritually on the planet. We're all unique. So that's my little ramble in regard to your question, Laura. So again, so today's class is about debunking these, quote, ascension symptoms and pointing out that these ascension symptoms are usually a sign that there's something negative going on. But if we're going to look at ascension and say like, well, if we're not going to call it ascension, like let's call it growth or soul deepening. Well, what are the signs that that's happening? So we're all different. We're all unique here in this live group, and those of you who are watching. So kind of as a springboard off of what I've just shared, what do you think would be your signs, because we're all different, what do you think your signs would be of like a grounded soul growth process? Go ahead and share in the comments, or Laura, if you'd like to come on and speak a little bit, you can as well. If you want to add a little bit to what I said.
Yeah. I kind of feel like for me, recognizing that triggering that emotional charge that sets you off, and being able to then set a boundary and to stand up for yourself and to be really clear about not consenting to anybody feeding on you or taking advantage, and just having because at first it takes a lot of courage, but just having the courage and the strength to do that is plugging into something authentically powerful, I think. It feels that way.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad that you shared. I love everything that you just said. I feel like other people needed to hear it. I feel like other people who are going to watch this need to hear what you shared. So thank you for sharing. Okay, so we're going to wind it down in just a minute, but just kind of last chance for any comments or thoughts in the chat box. So we have time to just do the chat box, and if there's anybody who wants to share. While I'm waiting for any comments to come through, I'll just make some closing remarks. So first of all, thank you for showing up for this new format. I loved it. I don't know if you did. I loved being able to share in this way. To me, it felt more interactive. I really enjoyed it. Stay tuned. I'll let you know how we're going to do it for next month. Probably the same, but I will be really clear in my announcement ahead of time, so you'll know what's happening. We still will have our free class in our free Facebook group called Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. It will always take place. The first Tuesday is our new schedule. So it's now on the first Tuesday monthly at 5:30 Pacific. So just adjust your time zone and just mark your calendar as a repeating event. Only people who are in the Facebook group will get the link to that. And by doing it that way, that keeps it so that only people who've gone through that filtering process of joining the group will be coming onto our Zoom. So that helps us create a safe space. Even those of you who are joining that we can't see your video today, I know you personally, so I know who you are, like lurkers or like strange people. So that's why we are going to continue to do it that way. And but we are going to share this in our Facebook group. I'm going to upload it. We'll share it in the Facebook group. I will also share it on YouTube. So if there's anyone who doesn't feel like joining the Facebook group, but you want to enjoy the videos, those of you who are on YouTube watching this, you can keep enjoying these videos. Lastly, before I read the comments that came through, My website is psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. There's a lot of great information on there. And okay, oh, great. Just in answer to the question earlier, what would be your positive symptoms of soul deepening? And Jamiel says the word presence, presence. I love that. I think that's amazing. And loving presence could be a sign that you feel unconditional love for all and existence, empowered in the heart. And I love what Laura said also about being able to balance that with setting with clear discernment and setting boundaries in a clear way, communicating boundaries, and also being self-aware of what our triggers are. It's like all this balancing. Rose says, thank you, Maya. And and there's a comment that I think I didn't see. So thank you, Laura, for reposting that. Jemiel had asked, can dark forces or entities cause a person to lose their memory and experience psychosis? How do you heal that? So I think I will answer this briefly, but it's kind of a whole other topic and a whole other rabbit hole. So we'll save a deeper answer for another time. But just briefly now, first to clarify, I'm not a therapist or a psychiatrist, psychologist, or mental health specialist. So my answer is based on my specialty in spiritual matters and having worked with lots of people over the years who have had spiritually based issues. So in my expertise, what I believe, my professional opinion, is that dark forces, entities, etc., can actually cause a person to lose memory. And we call that a memory wipe. Memory wipe. And in answer to your question, I believe that they can also cause psychosis. I think that sometimes there can be a mental illness first that then opens the person up to entity interference, because entities love working with that kind of issue. And then the opposite can happen where entities come into the picture with a person who didn't previously have psychosis or mental illness, but the entities came in and actually caused it. Okay. So those are just some thoughts there, and we can go deeper into that another time, or even when you join the Academy, Jamiel, we can really get into that. Okay. Laura said, those triggers are not just our teachers, they seem to be our spiritual immune system. And also, as a sidebar to the triggers topic, when we have a lot of unhealed triggers, it is a lot easier for dark forces to control us. And so they can poke at our triggers. They can send people into our world via secondary psychic attack to poke at us and mess with our triggers. And the more you do your quote shadow work and work on becoming more aware of and healing your triggers, then the less vulnerable you are to those kinds of issues. Jamiel says, improvements in my personal development work show me I'm moving forward, in parentheses, ascending. That's great. And also trauma can also be a cause along with it. Absolutely. So I was just addressing your question, can dark forces / entities cause a person to lose their memory and have psychosis? But there's a lot of other things that can cause those issues, including trauma and many other things. So if someone is experiencing those things, I feel it's very important for that person to first seek medical assistance, because someone who is a spiritual guide is not qualified to deal with serious mental illness. So I'm just speaking this for the benefit of anyone else who's watching this, being super clear, including those people who are spiritual teachers and guides, sometimes who are trying to act as a therapist and they shouldn't be. So if there's someone who's having those kinds of issues, they absolutely need to seek out the medical support aspect of that first. And then the spiritual aspect can be possibly, depending on the circumstances, the spiritual aspect can be a support to that as well. And Laura says, turns out they can do it through animals as well as people in regard to activating our triggers, secondary psychic attack, and all of that. Absolutely. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. This was wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and close out for today. I just love seeing your smiling faces. This is so much better than Facebook Live. I loved seeing your expressions as I was on my soapbox and talking, and I loved hearing your comments. So thank you so much for being here. This will be uploaded later, either tonight or tomorrow, if you'd like to rewatch it. And of course, mark your calendar, and we will do this in some way, shape, or form again next month. And next month's topic, just as a reminder, is all about those toxic and dysfunctional and even dangerous spiritual events, retreats, metaphysical fairs, and all of those other kinds of events, sound healing concerts, like all these different things that can sometimes be good, but there are a lot of times when they're super dangerous. And I'm going to help us unwrap all of that, unwind all of that, so you know what to look for, so you can be more discerning in the events that you choose to participate in. Everybody have a great night. Thank you so much. Peace out. Thanks, everybody.